The relevance of all this is that you are a community. And I say, well, what's significant? I say, your mind. Your mind is a government. Your mind is a government that determines the fate of the cells in your community. When you have a healthy, happy mind, you have a healthy, happy population. But if you have a tyrannical government that's in there saying, yeah, you guys can't do anything, who do you think you are? What do you think happens to the citizens in that community? They start feeling very bad about the whole situation. They stop working in harmony, and illness is the consequence. Illness is a breakdown in the harmony of the community, which is ultimately reflected to the government that is informing that community. So we have this understanding. I say, how does it work? Well, the cell membrane is the skin of the cell, is the brain of the cell. And I just said to you a little while ago, cells are miniature people. I go, yeah, they are. And I said, they're just like you. And then you're going to say, you mean my brain come from my skin? I go, absolutely. If you understand embryology, when an embryo is formed, there are 3 layers. They're called ectoderm, outer layer, mesoderm, middle layer, and endoderm. And each layer gives rise to specific organs and tissues. Guess what? The outer layer, called the ectoderm, only gives rise to 2 things in the human: skin and nervous system. Your nervous system is coming from the skin for a very simple reason. The skin is the interface between the outside and the inside. What better place to read about the 2 environments? So we understand, and I say, well, how does this membrane work? I say, there are switches, like light switches, built into the membrane. And the significance of these switches, as you can see in this picture of a cartoon of the surface of the cell, they're called receptors on the skin of the cell. Do you have receptors? Think about it. Do you have any receptors? Come on. Eyes, ears, nose, taste, touch, pain, pressure, temperature. Where do you think your receptors are found? In your skin. You and the cells are exactly the same in this regard. So the receptor has a sugar antenna, which is reading the environment, just like television antennas, reading signals and what's going on, and a protein that takes that signal and carries it inside the cell. I said, well, what does it look like, this receptor switch? Well, this is a little piece of the membrane I cut out. And I show you here is a switch, a light switch. It has 2 parts to it. The receptor, which has the antenna reading the environment, and the effector, which is a protein that takes that signal and sends it inside the cell to control it. The receptor is stimulus. The effector is response. Stimulus, response. The cell's response is due to the stimuli. Where do the stimuli come from? The environment. I say, well, how does it work? Well, basically, it's a very simple understanding. The switch with the receptor is scanning around. There's a connector protein. Look at the shape of the connector protein and look at the shape of the blue receptor. They don't match, so I can't connect the switch. But when a signal from the environment shows up, it changes the shape of the receptor, and that connects it to the effector, and the effector sends a signal inside the cell. When the signal goes away, the switch is broken. So now nothing's happening till a new signal shows up, connects the stimulus to the response, and that response goes inside the cell and controls the behavior. This is a typical switch. This is what the switch looks like, the receptor on the left and the effector on the right. And I'm going, okay, good. You come in a biological class and I'll try and numb your mind by giving you a scientific explanation of defining the switch. And I say, the switch is a receptor, effector, integral membrane protein complex. And you go, I say, yeah, that's really difficult to try to understand. It has no meaning to you at all. But if I translate the meaning of the receptor and the meaning of the effector, then I can give you another story. I say, what's the function of the receptor? What's the function of your eyes, ears, those that taste it? What's the function of that? Function, I just want to say, I should have added that. This is not, I show you one switch. There are 100,000 receptors on the surface, so a cell is responding to 100,000 pieces of information coming in every second. I say, function of the receptor, awareness of the environment. Yeah, eyes, ears, nose, let me know what's going on in the environment. I say, yeah, but what's the function of the effector? Oh, that's the one that sends a physical signal inside the cell to control the function. So if I define the switch in a different way, I would say, A switch represents awareness of the environment through a physical sensation. You go, well, that's better than integral membrane protein complex, blah, blah, blah. I said, but I can shorten it even better. Because there's a word, a single word in the dictionary that defines that switch. I said, what's that word? Perception. Perception. Awareness of the elements of the environment through physical sensation. And all of a sudden I say, what is the name of the switch that controls your biology? Perception. Why is that relevant? Because you have perception, and you can change your perception. And as you change your perception, you change the function of the switches. You control your biology by the way you see the world. And it goes through perception. And it's so wonderful because not all your perceptions are accurate. Yet your perceptions still control your biology. Whether they're accurate or they're false, they still control your biology. So a simple way of saying, what's the name of the switch? It's belief. What do you believe? Because whatever your belief is, it's going to activate that switch. You have a positive belief, you're going to get a much different activation than if you have a negative belief, because you're going to engage different switches in the system. The most important understanding about this is changing your perception of life. This is a wonderful article recently from Dean Ornish, a physician in San Francisco. He was working with prostate cancer patients. We all think, oh my God, cancer is genetic, cancer is genetic. First of all, absolutely not true. 10% at most of cancer is hereditarily linked. 90% of cancer is due to environmental responses. Why is that relevant? You respond to the environment inappropriately, you create a cancer. You change your response to the environment, you eliminate a cancer. But what I want to show you is this. Dean Ornish takes a group of prostate cancer patients. He splits them into two groups. He says, one, you do the conventional medical treatment, all the pharmaceutical garbage, you do that. He said, the other group, no drugs, no medicine. Here's what I'm going to do, just to ask you to change your diet. I'm going to ask you to learn stress reduction technique, and I'm going to teach you how to meditate. In 90 days, 500 genes change their function just by changing diet and understanding how to reduce stress. Because stress is the biggest cause of illness on this planet. It's been actually estimated that up to 90% of doctor visits are due to stress. And the relevance is, you can change your genes every day just by the way you're responding to the world. You are not a victim of the genes. You are the master of your genes. Your mind controls the genes. I go, well, great. I've got this Petri dish. I got cells in it. And you say to me, Bruce, this is a real nice study. You did that in a plastic Petri dish, and it's so nice in a laboratory, but I'm a human. What the heck is the connection here? And I already told you what the connection was. I told you, guess what? While you see yourself as a single individual human, you're not a single individual human. You're a community of 50 trillion cells. And the significance about that 50 trillion cell community is this. You are a skin-covered Petri dish. And you've got 50 trillion cells inside. I say, yeah, but what are those cells going to do? And I say, well, the fate of the cell is controlled by the culture medium. I say, oh, what's the culture medium inside your body? I go, oh, the culture medium inside your body? What is it called? It's called blood. The blood is the culture medium inside your skin-covered Petri dish. Think of this and recognize this important fact. To a cell, it doesn't make a difference if it's in a plastic dish or a skin dish. The cell responds to the composition of the culture medium. Then I say, yeah, but my blood is the culture medium. I say, yeah, it's got a composition in it. What's it controlled by? Number one, nutrition. Thank God people around here are beginning to understand to get away from that mass-produced, industrial, pesticide-filled, polluted food and start eating all the organic food. Because this is what's feeding your cells. But more importantly, in addition to the nutrition, there are signals in there to tell cells what to do. Yeah, but where do these cellular signals come from? These signals that tell the cell to become this or become that, to be healthy or to be sick. Where do the signals come from? And the answer is this. You read the environment. You read the world environment out here. You read the inside environment inside your body. I said, who reads the environment? Oh, I go, the nervous system perceives the environment. I perceive it's kind of warm and muggy in here, and it's affecting my sweat glands right now. And the fact is, if it was cold, I would change the response of my physiology. It's different when you go outside when it's warm. When you go outside, it's cold. Why does your physiology change? It read the perception of the environment. And I go, yeah, but is it just the perception? I go, nah, that's where the catch is. Because I said, sometimes our perceptions are right, and sometimes our perceptions are wrong. So all of a sudden, it's not that the brain is directly controlling the chemistry of your body. It's your mind. It's your mind. You can change your mind and change your biology. Yes, this is what spontaneous remissions are all about. People who are terminally ill, and everybody counts them out, and all of a sudden, they become healthy. How did they do that? They changed their mind. And when you change your mind, what is the result? The mind tells the brain what chemistry it should release. That chemistry goes into the culture medium, the blood, or that chemistry can be carried to the nervous system, to the cells, and those signals are the signals that control behavior and genetics. And all of a sudden it says, well, then you're not a victim of the genes at all. You're actually creating the culture environment that programs your cells. Significance, you're not a victim, you're a master. You're the one that can change your perception. You can change your mind. You can change the way you look at the world. And all of a sudden, you start to get out of the fact that I'm a victim of forces outside of me. No, you're not. You're in charge. I go, really cool. I go, yeah, but where or how does it work? And I go, well, my friend Bob Mueller, who does the covers of my books, created this wonderful cartoon. Me as a cell biologist, but then I said, no, this is for you. You may not be a cell biologist, but we're all self-biologists. We create our own biology. And I say, well, how does it work? So look how simple this is. I say, you close your eyes, and when you open them up, there's someone you love in front of you. Your mind perceives love. And when you perceive love, you release chemistry into the blood, dopamine, oxytocin, vasopressin, growth hormone. They come out of the brain. They go into the culture medium. I said, what's the significance of that? I said, if I took those chemicals and put them into a plastic petri dish with cells, the cells will grow exuberantly well. And I said, no kidding. Isn't that funny how when you fall in love, you feel so good and you're so healthy? That's because you create a culture environment that nourishes and feeds cells. Love feeds cells. But I say in contrast, you open up your eyes and you see something that scares you. You don't release this chemistry. In fear, you release totally different kinds of chemistry. You release stress hormones and inflammatory agents. If I put those chemicals in the plastic petri dish, guess what happens? It stops the cells from growing. That's why fear causes stress, which causes illness. Why? When you're in stress, the chemistry is shutting down the growth of the body. You say, why would it do that? It's intelligent. It says this, if you're in stress and you're afraid, something's going to get you. So what does your body do? It says, listen, we may have to run like hell in a second. So I'll tell you what, conserve all the energy so if that lion is chasing us, we can get out of here. Well, how do you conserve energy? You shut off everything that's not necessary at the time of stress. Well, the significance about that is this system was designed a million years ago. A million years ago, what was our stress? That saber-toothed tiger. When that saber-toothed tiger chased us, you damn well better be in stress, get that energy running, and get away from the lion. But guess what? When you get away from that saber-toothed tiger, no more stress. And all of a sudden, you go back into growth. And the significance is you cannot grow when you're in stress because the chemistry released into your blood shuts down the cells. And this is where the problem comes in today's world. They are feeding you fear. They're feeding you stress. And the consequence of that is you get sick. And you get sick, and then you feed the corporate medical people. You start to live in fear. And this is what we got to get rid of. So I say, so where does our mind come up with all this stuff? Well, let me just tell you a simple point. Here's a simple fact. The function of the mind, think about it, how simple this is. The function of the mind is, excuse me, go back, Mr. Mind. Go back one. Is to create coherence between what you believe